been a little MIA lately, but it's for good reasons. My wife and I were doing a little road trip out west in Wyoming through Jackson and Yellowstone, hiking, observing wildlife. Oh yeah, and we got married. So we got to spend a few days in Jackson with our whole family a few days prior to our wedding, and that let us explore the town a little bit and hike. But to our surprise, the very first morning we were there, we woke up to heavy snowfall. Huge snowflakes. But this morning ended up being a really cool photo experience because the clouds were hanging pretty low in the sky. Those low clouds made it difficult to see the mountain range itself. But for those few moments that the mountain range peeked out behind the clouds, it made those photos look spectacular. My goal for that morning was to really capture that atmosphere that was gracing us for the morning. I'm actually a pretty unlucky person when it comes to types of weather when I travel to destination places. A lot of the time I get bright sunny days, and while that's great when we get to experience the places, it kind of makes for an uninteresting landscape photography photo. So I was pleasantly surprised to see some clouds for once when I traveled. My favorite image from that morning comes from the famous Mormon Row barn. The clouds in the background still covering the mountains for the most part, but peeking through a little gives that sense that there's something larger looming behind the barn, just out of view. And we were quite busy the next few days prepping for our wedding ceremony. Now, we always have wanted our wedding ceremony to be in a national park, but we just didn't know which one. And we ultimately ended up deciding on the Grand Tetons. We thought it'd be great to have all of our family out there experiencing Wyoming and the Tetons with us while we do our ceremony. And it turned out to be a really cool experience that everyone enjoyed. The location that we actually had the ceremony is really special to me, and I'm sure it is to quite a few other photographers, because the location that we ended up doing was the Snake River Overlook. And if you know, that's a famous spot made famous by Ansel Adams. And Ansel Adams was one of the biggest influences of me getting into photography from the start. So it really made the location that we're able to do it a lot more special for me. We ended up doing multiple hikes during our stay. The first hike we did was the long trail around Jenny Lake. Now I think this is the time in our trip where I actually decided that subconsciously I was going to do a little bit more film photography on this trip. I was still going to do digital, but I was just feeling film more while we were out there. It felt right to do film out in Jackson, Wyoming, and Yellowstone. And even when we were hiking, I took both my film and my digital cameras, but I ended up reaching for my film camera more often than my digital camera. The first couple images I captured were using Kodak Ektar 100. I wanted to use Ektar with the bright sunny days to emphasize the blue skies we had during our hike. I'm glad I did put the Ektar in the Nikon because the blue sky and reflecting water really came through on this film stock. I also really enjoy the greens the film captures within the trees. A couple of my favorite digital shots actually came from this hike. I actually looked at the Grand Teton Peak itself and noticed there was quite a few clouds coming off of it. So I ended up taking my circular polarizer and putting it on my lens so I can darken the sky behind the peak. I wanted to isolate that peak a little bit more than normal. That circular polarizer would darken that blue areas, and I wanted that dark blue because I knew I was going to make this a black and white image. And that dark blue makes a really great dark black and black and white images. We actually encountered our first animals of the trip on this trail as well. We came across a moose, but we also came across a mama bear and her 2 cubs. The second hike we ended up doing was Taggart Lake. It was a nice little hike, and we decided to do it in the morning so we could have a snack along the lakeside. The lake was fairly calm while we were up there, which made it a great opportunity to get some reflection shots in the lake. There was even a father up there with his son teaching him how to fly fish on the lake. My favorite picture from Tagert Lake, I actually had my wife walk out to a rock in the middle of the water. I wanted to capture an image of the scale of the mountain range surrounding us. Anytime I travel, I actually like to get an image like this at least once. I think it's a great way to represent the scale of some places that we visit. For our third and final hike, we were actually planning on doing Delta Lake, but the morning that we went to go hike it, we actually found out that there was a little bit too much ice for just normal hiking. We needed some ice climbing gear, and we didn't have it. So we changed our plans and ended up doing String Lake. And it's kind of funny, because at this point in the trip, we were addicted to the little mandarin oranges that we were eating during all of our hikes. Now, at this point in the trip, I actually had Portra 400 and the only 2 film stocks I really used all trip was the Portra 400 and Ektar 100. I mean, how can you pass up a canoe and mountain shot? I think at this point, we were actually feeling the tiredness from the entire trip, so we weren't really disappointed that we couldn't do the Delta hike. The String Lake hike was a pretty easy hike that we could just end our trip on. And as I previously said, we also spent a lot of time in the town of Jackson itself. But every time we went into town, I only took my film camera. One, because of the size. It's just a little bit easier than the Sony a7R5 to kind of carry around. But I also felt like the film was just a really nice tool to use in the town of Jackson. It's more of that Western, almost historical feel to it. And I just felt like film resonated with that a little bit more than digital. And surprisingly enough, I used Ektar for most of these photos. But I really like the punchy colors and the contrast the Ektar gave. It just gave a good saturation to the colors of the town. Now we also stopped by quite a few of the main stops you would think of in the Tetons. Places like Schwacher Landing, Oxbow Bend. You can't go to the Tetons without hitting some of those spots. While we were at Oxbow Bend, I loaded up my last roll of Ektar 100 for the trip. Now here is some of those photos from that roll of Ektar. Again, you can really see the blues come through in this film stock. It's probably one of the most vibrant capturing blue film stocks that I've used. And one of the last evenings that we were there, we ended up going to Mormon Row. We ended up sitting in the back of our car to enjoy the sunset. Since we have been going nonstop since we started, it was kind of nice to just sit, relax, and watch the sunfall. We got lucky enough that it was a pretty decent sunset that evening. We actually sat there for quite a long time. Not sure if the sunset would really show itself. These were all captured with Portra 400, except for the first one, which was a digital photo. And I think Portra does a really good job of capturing realistic colors in a scene. And that was a little look into our trip to Jackson, Wyoming. We actually split our trip up a little bit between Jackson and Yellowstone. So I've got another video coming all about Yellowstone and our experience in Yellowstone. A lot of that is wildlife. That was a really cool experience to see all the wildlife around Yellowstone. Got to go see some of the geysers, this hot springs. You know, it was a really cool trip as well. So look forward to that one. We really enjoyed our trip out west. I haven't been out west in a long time, and this was one of the first trips my wife had done out west in the mountain ranges. You know, I came back with this trip with so many photos that I'm really happy with. A lot of them are film, and I'm getting a lot more comfortable with film, and that excites me. I'm starting to lean a little bit more into film, enjoying the process of film than digital. I think it slows me down a little bit and makes me really focus on not only the shooting of film, but the editing of the negatives, getting the color right of the film. It's been a fun experience, and I've really enjoyed doing it. So I hope you guys enjoyed our trip to Jackson. I hope you enjoyed some of the videos and some of the photos that we got while we were out there. It was a great experience. It was fun having all of our family out there at once. So I appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed. We'll see you in the next one. Thank you, guys.